lived a woman whose beauty and poise captivated everyone who crossed her path. Ijeoma Nwachukwu was the epitome of elegance and grace, a devoted wife to her husband, Chukwuma, and a caring mother to their two children, Ada and Chijioke. She worked as a teacher in the local secondary school and was known for her intelligence and sharp wit. Her husband, Chukwuma, was a charismatic businessman who often traveled to nearby cities for work. Though charming, Chukwuma had a weakness: his roving eyes. For years, Ijeoma dismissed whispers of his infidelity and gossip, choosing to trust the man with. But as the saying, "Nothing hidden under the sun stays hidden," Ijeoma returned home earlier than their bungalow. She noticed outside the door. Her heart quietly entering the house, she followed the sound of hushed coming from their bedroom. There was Chukwuma with a young woman, their bodies entangled in lines. Ijeoma's caught, but she didn't scream. Instead, she retreated, her mind racing. That evening, she acted as though nothing had happened. She served dinner, helped the children, and even laughed at Chukwuma's stories about his supposed business meetings. But deep inside, something had snapped. A long, calculated game to ensure her dignity was intact while teaching him a lesson he would forget. She began her plan with subtle changes. First, she focused on herself. She started waking earlier, jogging in the mornings, eating healthier. Her wardrobe, once filled with practical outfits, now included vibrant dresses and stylish heels. She began attending events and rekindled old friendships, projecting confidence that turned heads wherever she went. Chukwuma noticed. "Ije, what's with all the clothes?" he asked one evening, his tone laced with suspicion. "Oh, nothing," she replied. "I just thought it was time to take care of myself." Next, Ijeoma started little hints to make Chukwuma uneasy. She'd receive calls and step out of the room to take them, him to hear her laughter through the door. Occasionally, she came late, claiming she had meetings with a colleague. When he provided details, she'd smile mysteriously and say, "You wouldn't know them." Chukwuma's once unshakable confidence began to falter. Watching her more closely, but Ijeoma was always one step ahead. She never gave a concrete reason to accuse her. Frustrated and paranoid. One day, Ijeoma said to host a dinner party. Lately, it would be nice. Reluctantly agreed. During the dinner, Ijeoma's charm was on full display. She engaged their guests with lively conversations and laughed at their jokes. Her attention lingered just a bit too long on one of Chukwuma's friends. Chukwuma's jaw tightened as he watched Emeka lean in to whisper to his wife, who laughed at his arm. After the guests left, Chukwuma couldn't hold back. He demanded. Ijeoma looked at him, feigning surprise. "Emeka? We were just talking about politics." Chukwuma's jealousy had been ignited. For the first marriage, he felt the sting of insecurity. Over the next weeks, Ijeoma intensified her psychological warfare. Posting photos on social media of herself at various events, always looking radiant by friends, male and female alike. She signed up for a book club, joined a fitness class, charity. Days went, and her evenings were filled with phone calls and laughter. Her plans, she subtly changed with Chukwuma. She started greeting him with a distant kindness, were curt but polite. She needed more space, but she always had a plausible explanation. He'd say, "Didn't I mention it?" One evening he asked, the truth was, it was a. Her reputation grew, and so did her independence. She even started saving money, leaving home earlier than usual through her phone whenever she left it unattended, but he found nothing incriminating. Arrived at her school unannounced. After the class, he pulled her aside. "Ige, what's going on? You're not the same woman I married." Ijeoma smiled. "Maybe you never read." Finally, one evening, Chukwuma exploded. "Ijeoma, I know something is going on. You changed. You're always out, always laughing with someone on." "Who is he?" Ijeoma looked at him calmly. "Chukwuma, if I've changed, it's because I had to. I realized I've been living in your shadow for too long. Now, I'm finding myself again." Her words poured. Chukwuma words. For the first time, he saw the depth he had taken for granted. And Ijeoma continued her psychological warfare, each move carefully calculated. She never outright accused her of infidelity, but her newfound independence and the subtle changes in her behavior made him. He became more attentive, trying to win back her affection, but Ijeoma remained distant. One evening, Ijeoma had been offered a teaching position at a prestigious private school in Enugu. "It's a great opportunity for me and the children," she said, packing her bags. Chukwuma was stunned. "What do you mean, you're leaving?" "I've thought about it for a long time," she replied calmly. "I need to focus on myself and my... Besides, you've been busy with work, we're gone." Away with the children that night, Chukwuma stood in the doorway, realizing too late the depth of his mistake. Ijeoma thrived. She asked for Chukwuma. He tried to win her back, sending gifts and letters filled with apologies. He even visited Enugu, pleading for forgiveness. But Ijeoma had moved on. She had learned the power of self-love and refused to settle for anything else. One day, her, "Ma, do you think..." Ijeoma smiled and people only change when they truly want to. But sometimes, it's better to focus on happiness and let others find their. In the end, Ijeoma's intelligence and determination, what could have been a tale of heartbreak in a story of empowerment, proving that sometimes, the best is living well. Months after life, Ijeoma began reflecting on her journey. She thought of her younger self, a woman who once believed marriage was the goal, the pinnacle of happiness. Now, she understood that happiness was not something from another person but something cultivated from within. She began journaling her thoughts, penning advice for women who found themselves trapped in misery, which became a bestseller across Nigeria. Women from all walks of life wrote to her, how her story had inspired them to reclaim their voices. A new circle of friends in Enugu included accomplished women who shared the vision of empowerment. Together, they started a support group called Nwanyibuwife, A Woman is Strength, which provided mentorship and resources for women in abusive, unfulfilling relationships. One day, Chukwuma showed up in Enugu, his eyes filled with regret. "Ijeoma, I know I failed you. But I'm a changed man now. Want to make things right?" Ijeoma listened to him, her expression calm but resolute. "I appreciate your words, but I've moved on. Life now is about growth. I hope you find your path, just as I..." As she closed the door, closure washed over her. The chapter with Chukwuma was finally closed, and she could see the life she had built. Years later, as Ijeoma watched her children graduate from university, she felt a deep sense of pride. Ada had inherited her mother's strength and passion, while Chukwuma displayed a wisdom beyond his years. They often told her how much they admired her courage and resilience. Ijeoma's journey became a story passed down to inspire generations. It was a reminder of hope to those who dare to chase it. Years passed, and Ijeoma herself at the center of a thriving community of women who had found strength through her story. Invested in local businesses and a vocational school for women that could provide financial independence. Her influence grew beyond Enugu, and was invited to speak at international women's empowerment in Africa. During one such conference in Nairobi, Ijeoma shared the stage with other influential African women. Her message was clear: resilience, independence, and self-love were the keys to overcoming life's challenges. The audience gave her a standing ovation, moved by her authenticity and the clarity of her vision. She returned to Enugu on her journey with gratitude. She knew her life had turned into something much greater than imagined, a beacon of hope for across the continent. And with every step forward, she carried the wisdom of her experiences, proving that no obstacle was chose to rise. In the bustling town of nestled in southeast, lived a woman whose beauty and poise captivated everyone who crossed. Ijeoma Nwachukwu, the epitome of elegance and grace, devoted wife to her husband, mother to their two children, Ada and Chijioke. She worked as a teacher in the local school and was known for her intelligence and sharp wit. Her husband, Chukwuma, was a charismatic businessman who often traveled to nearby cities for work. The charming Chukwuma had a weakness: his roving eyes. Ijeoma dismissed wit as mere gossip, choosing to trust the man she had vowed to spend her life with. Saying goes, nothing hidden under stays hidden forever. As she approached their bungalow, a pair of slippers out, and even laughed at Chukwuma's. But inside, Ijeoma started leaving subtle. Chukwuma's once ungentle, Ijeoma's charm was unfaded. Ijeoma looked at him with a distant kindness, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. When he asked about her day, her responses were but polite. She started sleeping on the edge of the bed, claiming more space. Chukwuma's suspicions grew. He started questioning her about her whereabouts, but she always had a explanation. "Oh, the women's meeting," she'd say. "Didn't I mention?" One evening, she went home wearing a necklace that she hadn't seen before. "Who gave you that?" he asked, tinged with jealousy. "It's just something I picked up at the market," she replied with a smile. But the truth was, it was a gift from one of her colleagues, a harmless gesture, but she knew how to fuel Chukwuma's imagination. Months went by, Ijeoma's new life blossomed. She joined a local NGO, organizing events that brought her closer to influential people in the community. Her reputation grew, and so did her independence. She even started saving money secretly, knowing that her plan to leave Chukwuma would soon come. Meanwhile, Chukwuma began to spiral. He started arriving home earlier than usual, hoping to catch her in some imagined indiscretion. He combed through her phone, left it unattended, but he found nothing incriminating. His frustration grew, and one afternoon, Chukwuma arrived at school unannounced. He was in class, watching as she taught and elegance. The male colleagues who greeted her warmly only paranoia. After the class, he pulled her aside. "What's going on? You're not the same woman I married." Ijeoma smiled serenely. "You never really knew the woman I married." Finally, Chukwuma exploded. "Ijeoma, I know something's going on. You've changed. You're always out, always laughing with someone on the phone." "Is he?" Ijeoma calmly. "Chukwuma, changed, it's because I had to. I realized I've been living in your shadow for too long. Now, I'm finding myself." Her words struck a chord. Chukwuma was for the first time, he woman he had taken for granted. Months passed. Gioma continued her silent warfare, each move carefully calculated. She never accused Chukwuma of infidelity. You found independence and the subtle changes in her behavior easy. He became more aggressive, trying to win back her affection, but Ijeoma remained. Finally, one evening, she had been offered a teaching position at a prestigious private school in Enugu. "It's a good opportunity for me and the children," she said, packing her bag. Chukwuma was stunned. "Do you mean, you're leaving?" "I've thought about time. I need to focus on myself and my career. Besides, you've been so busy. I'm sure you'll hardly notice." As she drove away with the children that night, Chukwuma stood realizing too late mistakes. In Enugu, Ijeoma thrived. She in her new job, found joy in her children, and even started selling handmade jewelry. Her story became an inspiration to many women in the community, a testament to resilience and self-worth. Ijeoma also began writing a column for a women's magazine, sharing stories of empowerment and personal growth. Her insights resonated with readers across the country. Soon she was invited to speak at conferences and workshops. Each achievement solidified her influence and her resolve. He tried to win her back, sending gifts and letters. She had learned the power of self-love and refused to. One day, Ada asked her, "Ma, do you think Daddy will?" Ijeoma smiled and said, "People only change when they truly want to. But sometimes, it's better to focus on your own happiness and let others." In the end, Ijeoma's and determination turned what could have been a tale of heartbreak into a story of empowerment, proving sometimes the best revenge is living well. Months after settling into her new life, reflecting on her journey, she thought of her younger self, the woman who once believed it was the ultimate goal, the pinnacle of happiness. Now, she understood that happiness was something bestowed by another person, something cultivated from within. She began journaling, penning advice for women who found themselves trapped in similar situations. Her reflections, titled Rising from Shadows, A Journey of Self-Discovery, which became a bestseller across Nigeria. Women from all of life wrote to her, sharing how her story had inspired them to claim their voices. Her new circle of friends in Enugu, women who shared her vision of empowerment. Together, they started a support group called Anibuwife, A Woman is Strong, which provided mentorship for women in abusive or unfulfilling relationships. Chukwuma showed up at her doorstep in Enugu, his eyes filled with regret. "Ijeoma, I know I failed you. But I'm a changed man now. I want to make things right." Ijeoma listened to him, her expression calm but resolute. "Chukwuma, I appreciate your words, but I've moved on. Life now is about growth, not going backward. I hope you find your path, just as I found mine." As she closed the door, a sense of closure. The chapter with Chukwuma finally closed, and she could fully embrace the new life she had built. Years later, as Ijeoma watched her children graduate from university, she felt a deep sense of pride. Ada inherited her mother's strength and passion, while Chijioke displayed wisdom beyond his years. They admired her courage and resilience. Ijeoma's journey became a legacy, a story to inspire future generations. It was a reminder that no matter how dark the storm, it always rises, bringing light and hope to those who dare to chase it. Years passed, and she found herself at the center of a thriving community of women who had found their strength through her story. She invested in local business and opened a vocational school for women, teaching them skills that provide financial independence. Her influence grew beyond Enugu, and she was frequently international conferences about women's empowerment in Africa. During one such conference in Nairobi, Ijeoma shared the stage with other influential actors. Her message was clear: resilience and self-love were the keys to overcoming life's challenges. The audience gave her a standing ovation, moved by her authenticity and the clarity of her vision. As she returned to Enugu, Ijeoma reflected on her journey with. She knew her life had turned into something much greater than she ever imagined, a hope for women across the continent. And with every step forward, she carried the wisdom of her experiences, proving that no obstacle was insurmountable when one chose to rise. In the bustling Umuahia, nestled in South Nigeria, lived a woman whose beauty and poise captivated everyone who crossed her path. Chukwu was the epitome of elegance and grace, a devoted wife to her husband, Chukwuma, and a caring mother to their two children, Ada and Chijioke. As a teacher in the local secondary school and was known for her intelligence and sharp wit. Chukwuma was a charismatic businessman who often traveled to nearby cities for work. Charming, Chukwuma had a weakness: his roving eyes. For years, Ijeoma dismissed his infidelity as mere gossip, choosing to trust the man she had vowed to spend her life with. But as the saying goes, nothing stays hidden forever. One rainy afternoon, Ijeoma returned home early due to a school meeting being. As she approached their bungalow, she noticed a strange pair of sisters outside the door. Her heart skipped a beat. Entering the house, she followed after coming from their bedroom. There he was, with a young woman, their bodies entangled like vines. Ijeoma's breath caught, but she didn't scream. Instead, she retreated silently, racing. That evening, she acted as though nothing happened. She served dinner, helped the children with their homework, even laughed at Chukwuma's story about his supposed business meeting. But deep inside, something happened. Ijeoma decided she wouldn't confront Chukwuma outright. Instead, she would play a long, calculated game to ensure her dignity remained intact, teaching him a lesson he'd never forget. She began her plan with subtle changes. First, on herself. She started waking up earlier, jogging mornings, and eating healthier. A wardrobe, once filled with practical outfits, now included vibrant dresses and styles. She began attending events and rekindled old friendships, projecting an aura of confidence that turned heads wherever she went. Chukwuma noticed. "What's with all the new clothes?" he asked one evening, his tone laced with suspicion. "Oh," she replied with a sly smile. "I just thought it was time to take better care of myself." Next, Ijeoma started giving subtle hints to make Chukwuma uneasy. She'd receive and step out of the room to take them, lowering her voice just enough for him to hear her laughter through the door. Occasionally, she'd come home late, claiming she had meetings with a colleague. When he pressed for details, she'd smile mysteriously. "You wouldn't know them." Chukwuma's unshakable confidence began to falter. Watching her more closely, Ijeoma was always one step. She never gave him any concrete reason to accuse her, leaving him frustrated and paranoid. One day, Ijeoma suggested they host a dinner party. "So busy lately. It would be nice to reconnect with our friends," she said. Ijeoma reluctantly agreed. During the dinner, Ijeoma's charm was on full display. He engaged their guests with lively conversations and